Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. I hope everyone is doing well. Okay, folks, we're nearing that mark now. The campaign is going to begin, and come March, as I indicated before, once the candidates have filed, not the ones who are procrastinating, but the ones who have filed, then we'll begin. But again, at the same time, along that same line, many of the voters, if you will, are having various meetings, if you will, and candidates fair, whatever you may call it, basically trying to get to the candidates who are going to be running for office as to kind of getting a sense as to whether or not they're going to be able to identify with the issues of their concerns. Well, they're going to be all over the place, state, federal, county, city, the whole nine yards. So what I'm going to be doing here for the next 15 minutes is give you sort of a sampling, if you will, of one group, if you will, that will be actually putting together a candidates fair on Hayden Island. And that's here at Jansen Beach. You might have heard of that, Jansen Beach here in the Portland metropolitan area. And we're going to basically talking with some of the key leaders in that particular effort. And it just so happened I may be part of that process. But we're talking about, again, Hayden Island Candidates Forum. And joining me today to give you sort of a little insight in terms of what's to be expected, and by the way, you're all invited, by the way, is Herman Kachold. Did I do it right?
Very good.
Yeah?
Very good.
It's pretty good, okay?
That's close enough for me.
Because other than Broussard, they normally say buzzard.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Donna Murphy, okay? And these are two key people of HIL, Hayden Island Livability Project. Hayden Island, they're putting on a candidates fair. And so they're going to be here like anything else. They're concerned about a number of issues, whether it be senior citizen issues, livability. I mean, they can go on and on. I can go on and on, but they're going to bring. So I'm just going to introduce them right off the bat. Let's start off with you, Herman.
Yeah, Herman Kachold. I've lived on the island for since September '07.
Okay.
Kind of a newcomer because there's some of the residents in our manufactured home community that have been there for over 40 years have lived on the island. So, and it's surprising how many have been there that long, quite a long time. And HILP, Hayden Island Livability Project, came out of when the Environmental Justice Committee that the CRC, Columbia River Crossing, had put together. They disbanded that and kind of ignored the environmental issues, justice issues on the island. And then so HILP was formed at that time, and started out with a Save Our Safeway campaign that was made quite a bit of news at the time. Been about 2 years ago, I guess now. But that was where everything came together and got started with HILP. And we've been through a couple different co-chairs. And currently, I'm a co-chair. Donna Murphy's the other co-chair.
And you all are meeting monthly, right?
Monthly, yeah. We third Thursday every month at the South Shore Clubhouse. It's in the manufactured home community. Yeah.
Donna, what do you think about this candidates fair thing that you all just put together? What are some of the things you're going to be looking at?
I'm excited about it because I'm hoping that Portlanders will ask some tough questions because we need answers and we need to let people know that Hayden Island exists and that we have active people here and we have a big community, a lot of voters.
I'm saying you got quite a community over there. A lot of times people tend not to think that it's just a place you can go and shop and this, that, and the other at the mall and whatever. But you got what, over 2,000 or so folks there.
Exactly.
And about maybe another 30,000 visitors on a sort of a monthly basis or weekly basis, right? Yeah. Is that fair? I know go on.
But the manufactured home community being a big piece of that,
yes, because
there's 1,300 to 1,400 people that are residents in the community there, and it's the single largest population on the island. The other ones are broken up into either floating home communities or condominium communities, different areas of the island. But the manufactured home community is the largest single population on the island.
And really, you sort of miss it too. As you just drive over the bridge, the I-5 bridge, you would think, is there a community here? Normally there's the Safeway, the big stores, if you will, in the mall and whatever. But people tend to forget about the fact that there's a community sitting in there. Now, just getting right down to this candidates forum aspect of it. Tom, would you put it over there on the announcement there about the candidates forum that gives you sort of a date? We'll put that on the screen right now. Tom, why don't you just reflect on that? Okay, just read the Hayden Island Candidates Forum, February 26th, right?
Yep.
On a Sunday. There it is, right there.
It's the last Sunday. It'll be next Sunday, a week from today.
Okay.
Last Sunday of February, at the Oxford Suites, which is one of the hotels on the island. They've been very supportive of events and things on the island. The High Noon Hayden Island Neighborhood Network had one of their meetings there when they couldn't use their normal meeting spot, and they've supported us here with the candidates forum to allow us to use that space at no charge. This is a community effort on their part. So and the person, Mary Leviner, that is the one in charge of that, she lives in the community too. So she's been a resident for over 30 years herself.
Great. And what are some of the candidates? I say you got the candidates.
We got the three major candidates for mayor:
Okay.
Amanda Fritz, Charlie Hales, and Jefferson Smith. A couple of those are limited constraints because they have other events to be at.
Right.
But we've got the three of them. And then city commissioners, we've got two for position 1. It was Amanda Fritz and Mary Nolan. And then for position 4 is Steve Novick and other name.
Jerry Williams,
Jerry Williams.
Okay.
And she's an environmental justice advocate, has been active in that for many years. So it should be interesting to hear what she has to say. And then for Hayden Island is part of District 5 of Metro, and we've got 4 of the candidates that are running for that position on there. And I go ahead and read them off.
Okay, good. Was it Michael Duro? Is that Duro?
Duro, yeah.
Terry Parker, Brad Perkins, and Helen Ying.
Yeah. And just a note on Brad Perkins, he's has an alternative to the CRC bridge project. He has another bridge.
CRC, what does that mean?
Columbia River Crossing.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's the bridge.
That was one of the things early on, the bridge project interchange project, and this monstrosity that they're trying to make work.
Because a lot of folks have been kind of concerned about CRC. What does that mean? Well, actually, it's crossing the water, right?
Crossing the water, yeah.
And how are we going to do that, right?
Well, early on, when I first got involved with this and studying the CRC, one of the things I brought up at one of the meetings was, how about Columbia River crossings? We need more crossing points, not just one. But anyway.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, sure, go on.
You said Amanda Fritz running for mayor. It's not. It's Eileen Brady.
I'm sorry.
Eileen Brady.
I messed up. Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right.
You said her name twice, but
trust me, this is community television. You're supposed to make a mistake. You know what I'm saying?
And then the last one down there is Ron Underhill. He's running for district attorney.
Oh, really? Okay, good. Well, hey, you got quite a field. I take it you don't have any problem with other folks coming on to the candidates fair, right? Can people just come in the audience and sit down?
Oh, sure. It's wide open,
It's public.
We've got, seating for a little over 100 people, I think, roughly. So they may have to be, that seating is got a loose term. A few of those, to getting over 100, you'll probably have to be standing. But
Right. But the whole idea, you invite the community. Anybody wants
everybody.
to come. Because it is a bridge. It is a major concern to all of us, in fact, in the state of Oregon and Washington, for that matter. Okay? And I take it you don't probably have any problems having those folks who maybe running for candidates to bring their material and just maybe set it outside.
Sure.
But the whole idea is that you pretty well picked the top folks who are certified themselves.
And our forum it's the candidates forum, granted, but we're concerned about Hayden Island and what's going on in Hayden Island and the impacts we're having on Hayden Island. We're not too concerned about what's happening in North Portland or Southeast Portland. You know, we wish them the best, but they've got their own voice and they can holler as loud as they want to. But we're concerned about what's happening on the island because we really think it's kind of an underrepresented area. It's kind of forgotten. You know, it's that spot that the bridge touches down, I-5 touches down and launches off, and that's it. And the Washingtonians can come down and get their tax-free stuff. And you know, it's there's a lot more issues there than that.
You know, when I talked to you about the idea of coming on the show and specifically talking to this candidate forum, I think all forums really should pretty well sort of duplicate themselves along that same line, because you were talking about inclusive. Everybody's involved. The business community, residents that are there, folks who are visiting the island, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? I really like your format in terms of how you've put this together.
Yeah, we're trying to cover everything. We've got the High Noon as part of it, and that's the Hayden Island Neighborhood Network, which is the official neighborhood association. It's recognized by the city of Portland. The Hayden Island Livability Project, which is us, and mainly the manufactured home community, but we include everybody in our operation on the island. We like to work with High Noon when we can. And the newer group is the Hayden Island Business Alliance, which Greer Kern has helped put together of businesses that are on the island, because they're in jeopardy. I mean, if the CRC project goes through, there's going to be, I think it's over 40 or 50 businesses that will be gone because of that, and over 600 employees.
Wow.
So that's a lot of job loss. You know, granted, you're going to have jobs created by the bridge project, but I don't think the same jobs translate to the one or the other. You know, and it's going to, and a lot of those people that work on the island also live on the island. So they lose their job, they're going to have to go off island to probably find another job. And so they might just decide to move off island. So we may wind up losing a good chunk of population from that.
I know there's been quite a bit of talk about the whole issue of the CRC, Columbia River Crossing Project. You've had many, many meetings in there, and I'm sure you've gone to many of those meetings aspect of it. And the other thing I was thinking about was that I'm sure you'll probably have some folks there that are just handing out material, information material, just maybe on the wall or something, with just putting, they can pick up stuff and whatever. You know. So it's a really just inclusive kind of a meeting, if you will, a candidates forum. So it's a really a concern for the entire island, if you will.
Because that's why it's not, we've got multiple candidates. It's not just for the mayoral candidates. It's a bunch of, it's candidates that will affect our island.
Right. Donna, what are some of your concerns, let's say, that you want the candidates to respond?
Well, the livability mainly of the senior population, the problems that we'll have with mobility for the seniors. A lot of them do not drive. There won't be a Safeway anymore. If the CRC bridge comes through, it will take it out. So that
very important.
Oh, very important for seniors. I mean, that's their pharmacy. That's where they get their food. I know Target is coming in with a limited grocery, but they will also have a pharmacy, but you know, that's when it's finished. Basically, it's a small island. People don't know what Hayden Island really is, I think.
You know, you were mentioning to me about the whole issue of crime, the video poker and stuff.
Exactly.
Well, what you respond? Why don't you share some of those?
Well, we're worried because there's 23, possibly more now, liquor licenses that have been issued on this island. That per capita of 2,000 people, that's quite a bit. And there's a lot of crime. There's not a big police presence here at all. I mean, it's just sort of hit and miss. And we're worried because once there's a MAX station on Hayden Island, I mean, that's a quick escape route. It'll bring more crime. I mean, that we're worried about that. And I don't know. It's just there's a big problem with just getting around the island as it is.
Then the transit issue you were telling me about.
Oh,
the
transients, yes.
Okay.
Finding, you know, there's people that live on West Hayden Island in the sand. They just erect tents. There's a big population.
Wow.
There's a big group of people that live out there, and of course they shop at the grocery stores, and I mean, you can tell exactly who they are from a distance. Even.
So these candidates, you're going to be asking.
We're going to be asking
talk
tough
about
questions.
Solutions, right?
Solutions.
How are they going to deal with these
problems.
issues, right? Okay, okay.
We're facing, you know, police cuts in police right now, probably 4 to 6%, and we go to a meeting on the fourth Wednesday of every month called PSAC. It's the Public Safety Action Committee at the Kenton Fire Station. Keep abreast of what's happening with the police and hearing about other neighborhoods and how the crime rate is either going up and down in different segments. But one thought I've had, and I've been promoting it for a while now, is to get about 3%, just a number out of thin air really, of the lottery proceeds. Now the island, we've got about $7 million a year in lottery proceeds. So 3% is like $270,000 to help the police, because they've got an increased load to deal with all the drinking and the gambling and stuff on the island. And this obviously would have to be a statewide measure, but there's other communities that have the same sort of problem, and it would be something that a 3% of that those proceeds injected into the local law enforcement would help tremendously.
Does Governor Kitzhaber know about that? The
I don't know. I've talked to.
What about the legislator? I mean, what about your Tina? What's her name?
I've sent it to Tina Kotek several times, and I've talked to her in person about it. Not yet. I know they probably have other issues to deal with, but I think that's an approach that the police need to have to work with so they can get some more revenue. Because they're always talking about cutting back on revenue. we need to find a new source for them so they don't have to cut back
Yeah,
anymore.
'cause I think it's a good idea because in all due respect, I understand they raised the price of the lottery ball, or was it Powerball or something? As it's $2 or something as opposed to $1.
Oh, is it?
I mean, so they've got this added revenue. Maybe they can take that portion of the money, if you will,
bet.
and put it towards police
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
definitely need it at this point in time. Very.
Exactly.
Well, this is just great. Well, I tell you, this is great. Let's put that back on the screen as far as the announcement. That's the Hayden Island. Can we put that back on there? Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Again, that's Hayden Island Candidates Forum, February 26th, Sunday at the Oxford Suites on Hayden Island from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, many candidates from the mayor's office, candidates for Metro District, City Council, and the district attorney. This has been okay. That's the announcement aspect of it. So come one, come all.
Yep,
okay,
you bet.
and then, like I said, if you're in a community that you don't have this sort of a format, here's an opportunity to get the formats brought to you by yours truly. Yes. Okay, you got it on there now?
Down below.
Okay, good. You got it?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, thank you very much. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, folks, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to being part of that. You sort of come over to my end of it and said you're going to have community television at the candidates forum, and folks will have the opportunity to be there if they're not there.
Yep, you're going to tape it and put it together in some shows, and it's going to be fantastic.
Well,
be able to see it on YouTube. And
that's right. We appreciate that very much, and in fact, that's what we're here for.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons why community television is really an asset to the community as a whole.
Yep.
And again, we thank you. So
Thank
again,
you
thank
for
you very
having
much,
us.
Donna. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thanks for coming over. I'm looking
Thank you,
forward to
sir.
seeing you. Okay, sir.
Yep.
Good enough. Okay, folks, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back for the second half of the show.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Welcome back again to the Oregon Voters Digest. Again, I hope you, on that last announcement about the candidates fair, I think that's a very important piece, especially now that we're going into elections. And right up front, you got to get out and vote. As you know, we're a mail-in ballot type of state, if you will, and so we need to participate. And sometimes to get the enthusiasm, to motivation, if you will, to do such, you need to go to these candidates fair. If you have something on your mind, you can ask those questions of these leaders, because these are the people going to be making decisions. And too often, if here's an opportunity, if you will, to really get to them because they want to get elected and they're needing the votes, if you will. And if they recognize you or recognize the questions, I mean, it's quite a job, if you will, just to be running for office. And I take my hats off to those folks who filed to run for office. And it's quite a bit, because everybody's asking him all kinds of questions and wanting to do a number of things. But the fact of the matter is, you know, yours will not be listened to if, in fact, you don't get involved. So do get involved. Go to those candidates for fairs that are available to you in your respective neighborhoods, like the Hayden Island situation, but all over the community, if you will. Get involved. Very important. Get involved and vote. Please vote across the board. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to shift a little bit, but I think it's not, because the bottom line is that there are issues too in the community, and again, from the standpoint of those folks who are running for office, they too need to know about varying kinds of concerns. I just happen to have someone here who happens to be somewhat of a business person to a certain degree, and then at the same time, often, many times, her concerns, if you will, are basically in a published kind of a format. She happens to, I think this may be her first publication aspect of it, but she did it. And too often people tend to procrastinate about wanting to write a book, but they don't actually get to be able to do it. They may have all the paperwork all sitting around, but then maybe it takes years, but then all of a sudden it happens. And have someone here that'll kind of give you a sense of what it takes, how she got to that particular point to write a book, and the issues and how she came up with those issues, and why it was such an issue, and how it could be maybe of a benefit to the public at large. Because from a business standpoint, the idea is you feel that maybe this might be a situation where it may hit your sensitivity button, and so maybe you ain't have to worry about writing your book. You may have it right there already published for you. So you just pick it up at Powell or wherever and whatever. So anyway, I've got this young lady here with me today. Her name is Landra Globe. In fact, let's see if we can get the photo here. The Arms That Are Needed by Landra Glover. Okay, you got that?
Just a minute. 1,
okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got it.
Okay, there we go. Good. That's front cover. Really nice. Little paperback kind of a situation as I'm looking in there. They really Publish America, Baltimore, and kind of a really neat deal. I'm just, let's see, that's a lot of time I always look at the front part of it before I'm even introducing my guest. You know, I'm digging in already. It says, I would like to dedicate this book to my son Jackson.
Yes.
Jackson, and to every man and woman capable of having children.
Correct.
That's really the basis of the contents. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to interview her and get a sense of why this book and who Landra is and whatever. So we're going to start off first off, and let's talk a little bit about your background, Landra.
Well, I'm a mother, of course.
Okay.
A graduate. I just recently graduated from Warner Pacific this past December with a master's in management leadership. My bachelor's degree is in journalism from the University of the District of Columbia. And I've been back in Portland for 4 years now.
4 years?
So, yeah.
From where? Now you
D.C.
D.C. So
Yes.
you're D.C.
Well, originally I am from Illinois.
Okay.
Raised in Portland.
Okay.
Went away, wanted a change, and wanted to see what the world had to offer.
Yes.
And so I
Came to
stepped
Portland.
out.
So you came to Portland.
We came. My mother moved us to Portland.
You went to Portland. But you're from D.C.
No, originally from Illinois.
Illinois, but back east.
Back east.
Back
yeah.
east. That's a tough area.
Yes.
I mean, to come to Portland.
Yeah.
Be nice and relaxed.
It's very different.
You felt good about it?
Very different.
I won't get too far at that. It's okay, good. Hey, you mentioned that your major was in what, journalism?
Yes.
In journalism. Okay. Have you done anything in
Yeah,
journalism?
I've done. When I lived in D.C., I wrote for a couple of newspapers. I wrote for the PG Suite magazine, a very popular magazine in the D.C. metropolitan area. This is actually my second book. My first book was a collection of poetry.
Really?
School newspaper, interned at BET, and
Interned at BET?
Yeah.
Really?
In the creative service
Black
department.
entertainment?
Yes.
Really? Great.
And doing a little freelance right now for 360 Degrees Unlimited.
What is that? What is that about? Here local?
Here local,
Okay.
yes. It's a website that basically kind of lets people know what's going on in the entertainment industry in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I have a little spot on there where I pretty much talk about everything from motherhood to just life, whatever's on my mind. So
And how do you access that publication?
just go to 360degreesunlimited.com.
Okay. 360 degrees
Unlimited.
unlimited.com. Okay. And you're on the web.
And I'm on there too as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gee, you got quite a background here. Gene brought me quite a person here. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Eugene, by the way, for letting me know that he's in journalism himself, aspect of it, and he knows a prize when he needs one. So I really appreciate the fact, Gene, that he's basically directed her over here to cable access. Probably the first, right?
Yeah.
In this area.
Yeah.
Wow, we're fortunate.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be here.
Gee whiz, no major television. I mean, this is the major television,
Yes,
right? Okay, good. Now let's talk about this book. Why did you put this piece together? And first off, how long?
Actually, it took me about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. You put
Life
this...
and the interviewing process and making sure that it was the way that I wanted. So it took quite a while. Yeah.
And then let's start off. Why did you write this book?
I wrote the book because as a female, I grew up without my father. My mother, great woman, raised 5 children, not to mention raising other people's children and helping. But as I got older, and specifically when I was in undergrad, I realized that there were some issues that started to arise. I started to realize, I think for the first time, that not having my father around played a huge part in my life. And for whatever reason, things just started to unfold when I was an undergrad. And perhaps maybe because I had a lot of alone time, you know, hung out with friends and got to experience a lot of things. But there was always also a lot of time by myself. And I think I started to reflect on my life and who I was, and started to see that not having my father in the home or even in my life on a regular basis had a major impact. And that's what prompted me to...
You know, you make a good point, because that is an issue within our community across, in fact, for everybody for that matter. You know, it's always been the whole issue that I was raised without my dad, you know, type routine, and that's a very important piece. And it's gotten to be more of a situation today than it was back in those days, because there was always, you know, the old idea it takes a village to raise a child, and then there was always some other support group, and I think you came up doing that particular line. But today the support group is not there, you know, as much as it is. So, and so it puts a lot of pressure, if you will, on moms, you know, moms with family, if you will, and families that people are having struggles among themselves, right? And so you don't have that support mechanism as much as you did, maybe, let's say, when you were growing up with mom to start with. See, so now is another issue. I just thought I'd bring that piece. Any comments on that?
It truly is. You know, originally before I came to Portland, Oregon, when we lived home, there was always family. There was always the grandparents that were around. There was always someone. There was an uncle or an aunt. And I was fortunate, blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, to have had people in my life that cared about us, that when my mom needed to go out and do things, they were there. And you know, nowadays it's a little harder. Actually, I would say a lot harder. We have to be careful where we're leaving our children at. Grandparents are raising children, and usually grandparents are the backup. Now, sometimes grandparents are in the forefront. They're having to do everything. And so I agree 100%. Things are definitely different. And I was fortunate to have the opportunity that when I interviewed women as early as age 16 to about 78 or 87, and I saw, and as you read the book, you'll see the difference in the way they talk and how things used to be. And so it played a huge part, and I was really fortunate to have interviewed some of my elders, because it gave the book more substance.
You're getting into the process, and I like that aspect of it. So how did you design this? Well, actually, you had the training, you know, because you went to school on that particular line. So that process, like you said, how did you pick the various candidates?
Well, what I did was I simply just reached out to whoever wanted to talk.
And this was back east?
And it started back east.
Okay.
Originally, I was going to just write about my life, but all these thoughts were coming up, and I started to wonder, you know, I was like, I didn't want the book to be negative, because I didn't want to specifically speak, oh, I didn't have a father, he wasn't there. I wanted to hear stories about my father raised me, my mother wasn't around, or my father and mother were married for years and I had a great father. And so I wanted to include all stories, and I wanted to include all women, any woman who was willing and open to talk, whether she'd be white, black, or whatever the case may be. I wanted to hear both positive, negative, in between, because I felt like that would provide the book with substance and be open to, you know, everyone.
Well, you just made mention about it, because I was asking you whether or not it was just African Americans, baby, but you're saying it's across the board.
It's across the board.
It's across the board.
Interviewed Hispanic, white, a young woman from Africa. And what I did is I didn't specifically tell you what their nationality was. And I did that because I didn't want people to feel like, oh, that doesn't happen in my culture. I wanted people to, and there are some hints. You know, one of the young ladies mentions that she is from Africa. But I wanted people to not think about color so much. I wanted them to just think about, can I relate to this? Did I have this experience? So we could all see that although there are many differences, there's also a lot of similarities between us, regardless of race, you know, color, economical background, etc. So,
well, you know, you make the point too, the fact that, you know, our exposure dictates to who we are anyway, right? And one should not, if you will, in any way slight their respective culture. I mean, that's your strength, right? You got to have some base, if you will, to go from, because otherwise, how can you interview some other culture if you don't feel comfortable about what you're all about?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you know what I'm saying? That's a ref. But a mother is a mother's a mother. A father is a father's a father. And family is a family's a family. And a village is a village is a village. I mean, you know, when I think about this whole issue of the village to date, for that matter. And all due respect, the Hispanic community is more of a village today because of when you hear about immigration and this, that, and the other, you know, you don't see, in all due respect, you don't see Hispanics on the bridges and things of that nature. And, you know, they still have the father, the parents are still there, if you're raising the kids. You got me?
Yes.
And it's, I just thought people need to know that. And that's one of the reasons why I asked you about the fatherly aspect of it. They still identify with the father.
Yes.
You know, and even now,
Yes.
people still, but there's this emphasis a lot of times about, well, you know, the male doesn't play a role.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just the mother. And it's very important because, I mean, just like any mother with a child, they want to make sure that as time goes, they want to relate whatever the situation is between the two of them, the two adults. They want the child to relate to a father. That it was just somebody, it was an osmosis kind of a situation,
right,
or it wasn't a negative kind of a situation. You got my point?
Yes.
Fair?
Yes, very fair.
Let's talk about the contents of something. Really, you got a number of titles here that I was looking at as you were talking. Let's talk about this.
What I did was I listed each story as first name. For instance, Alexis, and then the age. And I wanted to leave it just like that so each person that read it could relate, from a young girl who's in high school to a woman who has had children and is a grandmother. And I basically asked several questions, describe your father in 2 words, your most fondest memory, your most hurtful memory. And one of the other questions that I also asked was, what role did your mother play?
Oh, really?
Because I feel like that is very important because it takes 2. And sometimes, you know, the mother is supportive,
right,
and sometimes she's not.
Yes.
And I wanted that to be something that the people that I interviewed, I wanted that to be something they thought about, and I wanted the people that read the book to think about that as well. Was my mom supportive? Did she open the door for my father to be a father? Because as we know, sometimes that is a problem. Sometimes fathers want to be there, but mothers make it difficult. And I wanted to open that up, regardless of how difficult that was, because we can't heal if we don't really deal with the issue. And so the other thing that I also gave each woman the opportunity, in the book it says, Dear Father, and I allow them to say whatever's on their heart. And it was my goal to make sure that when I edited the book, I only edited it for grammar because I wanted them to be able to sincerely speak from their heart, and not allowing, giving them the opportunity to say whatever they wanted. And it wasn't going to be up to me or anyone else to tell them that they couldn't say it. And so a lot of women just, you know, they pour their heart out, and they got to say what they needed to say. And it was healing for them, even for myself through the process. I have to admit, I cried a lot through every interview because I did not speak to my father during this process.
Oh, you didn't?
Did not have a positive relationship with my father. We were not speaking. But as I began to interview the women and listen to their stories, I felt, I guess the word would be convicted. And I felt somewhat ashamed because I had judged this man, this human, so harshly that I realized that at least I could call him and try again. But there were some young ladies in there, they could not call their fathers. Their fathers had passed on. They wished they could have went back. Some a young lady in there who had never met her father. Her mother knows who her father is, but will not tell her. So I thought to myself, here I am. I have the opportunity to at least try again. So through this process, I picked up the phone, and I'm happy to report that my father and I, we speak. We do not have the relationship that I would like, but we don't have the relationship that we used to. And to me, that means a lot. That's a stepping stone. That just goes to show that it's possible to heal. There are some relationships that have been severely damaged, but I believe there's healing in some kind of way. Even if you just accept that the relationship may never progress or grow, at least you've done that part to know that it's not going to grow, and be okay with that. So, you
know, it was interesting because as you were making the points there, it's kind of like I'd say a primer, you know, if you will, and the headings, like you said, describe your father in 2 words. What is your fondest memory of your father? What is your most hurtful memory of your father? What role did your mother play in the relationship between you and your father? And as I was reading through some of these things, you're right, you know, and a lot of times what happens, because first off, they're marriage vows, for better or for worse. A lot of times people don't take that very serious, if you know what I'm saying. And sometimes, especially today, it's a little easier, if you will, to break up.
Exactly, to get
You know?
out.
And then I think about the times when the fact that there was no welfare in the early days, if you will. So people tend to stay together.
Yes.
They might have argued more and more, but they stay together still,
Stick it out.
i.e. the village, right?
Yes.
You couldn't
Right.
go nowhere, right? So
Exactly.
you either went to another, you went next door, if you will,
Yes.
because mom stayed there, or dad stayed there, or
Yep.
cousin or whatever. You wouldn't leave town, right?
Exactly.
And everybody stayed there, right?
Yep.
So it was for better or for worse.
Yes,
But then
exactly.
there was these other elements come in, like the welfare aspect of it. It was kind of easy, if you will. Well, gee
Yes.
whiz, I can get out of this situation or whatever. And then the other thing is that when people break up, you know, if they got kids, they're breaking up for a reason. But unfortunately, the kids are there,
Yes.
and whoever has the kids, normally in most cases, the mom, because that's basically the way our culture, our society tend to relate to.
Yes.
And you know, well, male, you get out. And not you're saying not it
Yes.
should not it should be open on both ends.
Yeah.
But the bottom line, and then during that particular time period aspect of it, two people are angry at one another.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And then guess what? Whoever has the child
Yes.
will say, hey, no, he's the problem.
Yep.
Or she's the problem.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden that child has to suffer through that.
Yes.
And as you say, then all of a sudden you don't meet both sides during that particular time.
Exactly.
And then again, like I said, people begin to be independent. Hope you don't mind my talking this way.
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
you're right.
thinking along
You're
that
right
particular
on
line.
key.
Because, you know, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, and that's why I like this premise, so to speak. You know, it's a good guide, if you will,
Yes.
that if a person could take it and then they can just sort of apply it themselves.
Exactly.
But they got a good reference point that people
Exactly,
forget.
yes.
Okay? Because the age factor,
Yes.
sometimes people get divorced when they're young,
Yes.
middle age, or even seniors.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can use this as a format to say, well, before you start saying we're going to part,
Yes.
read the primer.
Yes, and what I did was in the back of the book, I asked the same questions, but I left space to write your own story.
Oh, really?
Yes, because once you
therefore, that's
read,
neat.
yes,
That's
once you
really
read
nice.
the book, you cannot help but have thoughts and opinion. Every time I speak, or someone reads my book, they come back to me and they tell me. In about 5 to 10 minutes, they try to tell me everything, and they want to talk about their father and their mother, and all these things start to come out.
Right.
And I think to myself, wow, that is so great, because that gives them an opportunity
Yes.
for whatever they were holding in,
Yes, yes.
the anger that they weren't aware of.
Yes.
They get that opportunity to not only speak to me, if given the opportunity, but also write down their feelings and their
Yes,
thoughts, and then
yes.
they begin to heal.
Yes.
Or they begin to appreciate,
Right.
wow, I had a great dad.
Right,
I didn't
right,
realize
right.
how great my dad was.
Yes, yes.
So,
You know, again, that same, I like that. I like what you did. You describe your father in 2 words. You got the whole piece of, so you can use this as a primer,
Yes.
right? And then write their own concept. It'd be interesting to just write it initially, and then as you then read the book,
yes.
and then come back.
And yeah.
You know, come back and then trying to reach out for that. And then the other thing too, you find too, this reinforcement, if you will, the anti-male part.
Yeah.
And you know, but yours is kind of like after the fact. You saw your father, and it was a kind of a more balancing kind of a situation. I noticed you spent more time talking to the father aspect of it, because it could have been just the opposite.
Yes.
Yeah, because dad could have been, if you will, mom, so to
Yes,
speak, and then
exactly.
mom could have been out, and then
Exactly.
you know, then you would have reflected just the opposite.
Yes,
You
and
know
I
what
actually
mean?
have a story where a young woman, her mother was on drugs and her father raised her. And she admits, you know, I don't know, he's my everything. I don't know what I would do without him. And she says, dads don't get enough credit because there are some good dads. And she's right. There are a lot of great dads out there.
You know, and again, right in front of something just current. You know, the Whitney Houston,
Yeah.
who just passed away. I just saw her mom. You know, I saw Sissy. I mean, you know, you saw the mom, but I didn't see the dad.
Dad, yeah.
Dad was not reflected.
Yeah.
You know, and on that line, I think about the so-called in the so-called NBA and football and whatever. There's always the culture of the anti-father.
Yes.
But
exactly.
not, you know what I'm saying? Mom is there, you know, at the football games, and they do the projections,
Yeah.
they do the commercials on this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times the fathers, if you will, of these moms and whatever, then they have kids and family,
Yeah.
and then it happens to them,
Exactly.
and then they're out.
Yep.
You know, and I think we spend too much time reinforcing the separation, and that's what I like
Exactly.
about this
Yes.
particular book. What you're doing here is that you bring it back together.
Exactly.
You know, and I like the way you laid it out that way. It's
Thank
kind of like
you.
saying in so many words, hey, anyone can separate.
Exactly. But fathers are still needed. We
You
still
still
need
need
them.
father
Even if you
and
don't,
mother,
right.
both.
Exactly. Even if you don't live in the same home.
Right.
I still believe that you can have a healthy relationship fathers should not be excluded out of the relationship. Neither should mothers, unless there's some behaviors that are going on that just can't be resolved. But for the most part, you know, we need to bring fathers back. We need to acknowledge them more. We need to remember that there are fathers out there that are trying with all that they have to do a good job.
And moms.
And moms, exactly.
Yeah, see, a lot of times people don't realize that that's the other side too.
Exactly.
Like you said, they maybe fall into a situation where there's drugs or whatever, you know, relationships and whatever. Because we live in a society today with technology and whatever. You've got sex on TV and this, that, and the other, and trying to raise a family, and you know, you're looking for babysitters. It's costing you all kinds of money, if you will. You got to leave the kid in the front of a TV set, and everybody looking for the R. I remember before one time there was no such thing as R-rated. Remember that? You just couldn't see it.
Exactly.
In fact, it wasn't even in the movie house.
Exactly.
Like when I was coming, it wasn't in the movie house. You know, you saw Tom Mix and all these other folks. You know, Tono and this, that, and the other, but you didn't see those. But then all of a sudden the R came in, and like any young child, kids or whatever, you know, hey, I want to see the R.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the G.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And a lot of times we don't know the impact of it, but it's all economics.
Yep.
Okay?
It all works together.
Negative sell more than, negative sells more than positive.
It does,
which
unfortunately.
Is a fact. You know what I'm saying? Now, I noticed that there was another piece I was saying. Has there ever been a time where you thought you didn't need a father or a mother? I mean, you can put mother there too, but I thought that was a good question. Why did you come up with that one?
Because I think through my personal process, I just kind of went on with my life. You know, I knew my father wasn't there, and I just, it was normal for me. And I just, it was what it was. I didn't worry about it or think about it. And then as I got older, that's when it really started to come about. But I think looking back, I always needed a father, but I realized that some people don't feel that way. And I guess what I learned through that process by asking that question was that some people at some point, you know, they do feel that way just a little bit at times. But also through that, they always come back to, well, there was a time when I didn't need him, or I felt like I didn't need him because he wasn't doing what I needed him to do. But as they went out into the world, like me, they realized, wait a minute, I do need him. And I wanted to ask that question because I think a lot of people do believe, oh, I'm fine, I'm doing okay. And that's how I think I felt personally. I thought, oh, I'm okay. I'm in school. I had a great mom. She did, she worked hard. But despite all her hard work and her great effort, she's still not my father. And that's what I realized. And I think sometimes people miss that. And it's not to say that single moms cannot raise children. It's being done every day. And single moms are producing excellent, smart, educated, children that are doing great things. But the father is still needed. There's still a place for him. And so I take nothing away from mothers, but there was a time in my life, and I think in a lot of women's lives, they thought, no, I don't really need him. I've gone this long without him. Why do I need him now? But another thing I also learned is that they came to a point, a lot of the women came to a point where they realized, I want to ask him some questions. And it might have been at age 35 or 45 or 65. And prior to that, they might have spent years thinking, oh, I'm fine. But then one day, they was like, oh, I would like to know, what my dad would have thought, or it comes up. So regardless of what you think, I think it'll hit home at some point, even if it's just for a moment.
Another thing I'll ask you, because I know you've gone through this whole realm, and I'm trying to sort of bring up some points. What happens if another male comes into play, if you will, another stepfather, for instance? How do you deal with that? Now, you got the female, and then you got a male. Can you maybe talk to either one of those? Is there a problem?
Well, I do recall I had one story where a young lady, there was a stepfather, and from my understanding, if I remember correctly, the stepfather didn't want the child to have anything to do with the father, simply because he wasn't there. We do have situations where the stepfather comes in and he's doing a great job, but at the end of the day, that young lady, she appreciates him, but she's still longing for her real father. So I noticed that they acknowledge, yeah, he did a great job, he was good to my mom, or he wasn't good to my mom, or I remember he helped me, or he did this for me. But there's still that longing for, those are things my real dad should have did, or my real dad should have been there, or they still, it never replaces, it never replaces, stepfathers never replace real fathers, biological fathers. And I had one young lady who she grew up with her father around sometimes, and then her mother remarried, and he was very good to her, but she adored her father despite his shortcomings. You have to read the book. He passed away. I won't tell you how, but she adored her father. All the things that he did or didn't do, she still adored him. And she loves her stepfather. But her real father, he has that special place in her heart. And it just can't, it won't.
But that can work just the opposite too.
Yes.
You know, the mother aspect of it.
Yes.
And then as a stepmother, right? And all of a sudden you got the father coming in to see the, you know, no one wants to be reminded that there was another person in their life.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yes. That's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
That's very fair. Yes.
And so that's a toughie, you know, and if you don't handle it right, you know, all of a sudden that gives grounds. I'm out of here. That type of deal. If not that, I'm not going to get married. Or if not that, ask the question of, would you mind adopting my child? You got me? And then all of a sudden maybe there's a possibility of the adoption, and then at some point down the road, I want to see my real dad, or I want to see my real mom, and I want to change that name. Well, how do we deal with that? How do you? Not that we're physicians up here, so
that's part of the reason why I did the book.
Did you?
Because, and that's why I also left blank pages in the back. Because situations like this are a challenge. There's no easy way. To be a mother raising kids or a father raising kids, to want to remarry, to bring someone new into your life, to want to start fresh or start new memories, that's very challenging. A father who may want to remarry, who may be a single father taking care of 2 children or whatever the case may be, to bring in another woman or vice versa. While the adult may see things as being, oh, okay, well, this is great for me, I love this person, what are the children really thinking? It's going to always be, you have to be in a special place to take on and to love someone else's children. You have to really, it takes a lot. Because you need to love them as if they were your own. And children are smart. And that is, like I said, why I did the book. Because I wanted people to have the opportunity to heal. Because sometimes what the adults don't see, the children may see. While the adults may think that the new situation is great and progressing, the children may feel the opposite. So I always encourage people that although the book is, there are some very sad and tragic stories, we have to talk about reality and be open. So I always encourage people to, you know, whatever situation you're in, to give the book to the child. I've had young girls read my book, and it's good for them, and it's good for boys, because it allows them to get their feelings out. I feel like my book is an opportunity to start the conversation, because like I said, the women in here, the stories are real, and they're upfront and honest. And as I stated earlier, there's some stories in there that aren't the greatest. Women have been raped, but we need to, the problem is, what I learned is that, and speaking to the young ladies, they need their fathers, they want their fathers to talk to them. And that's the problem, people don't talk. We think everything's okay, but are the children allowed a voice? And that is what I was trying to do, to allow people, whether it's a father or a daughter or whatever the case may be, to allow them an opportunity to have a voice and to talk. And sometimes they can't do it at the table. But maybe reading the book. I've had a lot of fathers buy my book to give to their daughters because they're trying, but they don't know how to get through to their daughters. And so they're saying, well, maybe if I give this book to my daughter, she can write her own story, and she can kind of see that I'm really trying. I'm really not a bad dad. I'm just doing the best that I know how to do. But it's a challenge to, you know, to restart a family or to blend a family or to reheal or whatever the case is, whatever you're trying to do. And that's where my book comes in.
Well, you got to get one on my father too. You got to do the father
Yes.
part. You got to do the father
Yes,
part.
I do.
The
And-
stepfather. I mean, you can do a series of these.
Yes.
Because people.
And I plan to.
Yeah, because I could say I can at this time. I'm someone between. I can interchange father for mother or
Yes.
mother for father or stepfather.
Yes.
But in all due respect, the young person that's coming up want to see their name.
Yes.
You know.
Yep, they do.
You know, or the male that's left. I'm a father. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I want to talk to my father. Or I want to talk to my mother, if you will. And people then. Now the other thing I was going to ask you is why is this isn't the public schools? I mean, when I think about public schools, I think about criminal justice system.
Right.
I mean, we got high dropout rates. It would have a major impact.
I've
on
actually
kids.
been, thank you for bringing that up. I've actually been reaching out to some of the schools. I've contacted a couple of schools, the Sun program out Roosevelt and George Middle School and another school. I've been talking to them about perhaps doing workshops because I love doing workshops.
Yeah.
I love the
Yeah, it makes
opportunity.
sense.
Yes, because it gives them the opportunity to really talk because it starts at home. We always say that it starts at home, and that's where my book comes in because there's certain things that the kids don't know how to express. Sometimes they're not allowed a voice, and so I'm always open, willing to do workshops, like you said in the juvenile facilities.
That's major stuff. Yes,
foster
major stuff.
care.
Yes.
Even with the foster parents.
Yeah.
And I actually recently just talked to a woman the other day, and she saw my book and she thought, wow, this would be great. It's a healing process, and I'm 100% open to that.
You are open to that?
I am very open
Gee
to
whiz.
that.
Oh boy, I tell you, man, maybe talk to Carol down here at Portland Public Schools. I mean, because in all due respect, when you think about it, they've got these special education now for kids. They don't want to get them in the environment, but there's a lot of things that may be disrupting this child, if you will. And this could be a neat primer. In fact, it should be taught. You know, I've always said that we should have a course on cultures anyway, which we don't have.
Yes.
Which is another problem. You know what I'm saying? But this is something that's really needed with counselors.
Yes,
you
at
know,
an early age, because I feel like I didn't realize why my father couldn't love me until last year.
Yeah,
I'm an adult
really?
with a family, and I think to myself, I wonder what life would have been like had we had this conversation when I was 12 or 13. I knew that my father was not around. I knew that he was not being the father that I needed. So although I was young, I was very aware of that at an early age. And a lot of kids are, and sometimes we forget. And so I think to myself, I always encourage people to let the children read them maybe 10 or 12. If the father's not there, they should be reading the book. Because let's not wait until they're 21 or 22 and they're in and out of jail and they're angry and they're bitter. Let's talk about it now. So that way they can at least acknowledge that there's a problem now before they wait.
Now, you know, I got to ask you this hard question. It's really it's a softball question. Now, you've never said to me that you're still married.
No, I am
You're not
single.
married.
I am a
You're
single.
You're single. You got how many kids? You
I have
a
one
son.
son.
One son, right? One son.
Yes.
Now, what about his father?
His father unfortunately lives in another state.
Now, let's see. Are you guys communicating?
Yes, we do communicate.
And with his child, with Jason?
Jackson.
With Jackson?
Yes.
They are communicating?
Yes, we do communicate, yes.
Okay.
And for the most part, in all
Yes,
honesty, we communicate pretty well.
Pretty well.
Yes.
Okay, pretty well.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
So,
I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep it that way.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
does Jason visiting?
Jackson?
I keep going to Jason. I don't know why.
Well, he comes here. He has to come here. He has to come here. He has to come here.
Sometimes you gotta be nice. Let
I don't know if I'm.
Let him outreach them. Let him. You know.
Well, we're actually
You're working on that.
Yes, we're in discussion of letting him
go visit
go
Dad.
visit.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'm just reading the book.
Go visit without
I'm just
mom.
reading the book now.
We actually recently just had that discussion.
Did you?
So we're
It's looking good.
I'm nervous though.
No, don't worry about that. It's fine.
I'm nervous.
I mean, from what
he's got a lot of great qualities.
Okay.
A lot of great qualities that he can instill into my son. I am, my first and probably only, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm willing to.
But just like you said in the book, it gets tough when you first, i.e. break up or whatever.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
It does.
And and like I said, but the child is sitting there. You got my point. In some way, shape, or form, if the parents could kind of at least get together and say one thing, we may break up,
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, we're still together when it comes to the to the child.
And
okay.
yeah.
And then the idea is still get that communication, get on the phone or whatever, because sometimes you can't, you know, fly back and forth. But,
exactly.
But still, it's good to be in that environment.
Yes.
Because you know, things happen.
Yes.
You know, I got to say that I've basically gone through the same thing. You know, and I had to get my sons later on in life.
Yes.
You know, and one of which passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just couldn't reach him as quick as I could have, but I did see him before he passed away, and I felt good about that part. But it is a problem, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. And then thinking in terms of those folks who are getting ready to run for office, is that here's another issue. This is a major issue when you start thinking about the incarceration rate, if you will, and things of that nature that we're having to deal with. Some on a per capita basis, African Americans are represented more in the criminal justice system than anyone else. And then the other cultures are too, but the numbers are naturally not as many African Americans as there are others. But the fact of the matter is, it's a problem.
Yes.
And I could see where a lot of this can exist just through this piece. In fact, the criminal justice could really use something like this.
Yes, I agree.
And especially when they're sitting in a situation where they've got a very let's say an attentive environment, because they can't go anywhere.
Exactly.
And they could basically start maybe, hey, this is something we need to talk about. You know what I mean?
Start dealing with it.
Yes, they're dealing with it. So this is good. Now, again, I've been talking with Landra Glover. I mean, this is very neat. The arms that are needed across the board, and she's got a very interesting piece. And what's that phone number? How do we get in touch with you again?
You can reach me by email.
Email?
At L Glover, that's LGLOVER 65 at hotmail.com.
Okay. All right then, good. Well, hey, I would say here. Let's put another deal here. I got about one more minute. Put that on the. Let's put this on the screen up here, so make sure that you see this. There we go, right there. Put that on the screen there. Put that bigger. Can you get bigger there? Can you get bigger there? Get closer to this deal here. Okay, now pull it back some so she can. There we go. There you go. The arms that are needed. Landra Glover.
Yes.
Get that address again. What's that address again?
L Glover 65 at hotmail.com.
Okay, fine. And then at that point in time, right now you've got the book.
Yes, right? I have the book. Actually, you can get it at
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Amazon. And I believe Reflections has some.
Reflection has some?
Yeah, they may
so
have
Gloria's got that book over there.
Yes.
Okay, good. That sounds good. Well, this is really good. I really appreciated the interview.
Thank
it
you.
even hit from a personal standpoint.
Yes.
And I think it's going to hit a lot of folks that are out there from a personal standpoint. All you have to do is step up, if you will, and get this primer and read it. It's a very good primer, you know, and I really think it's great. And then, you know, all of a sudden you can personalize it yourself.
Yes.
So thank you very much for being with us. It's been a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for being with us. Again, as George Page always said, back to what you believe in. Talk to you next week.